Alright, so what is up, guys? I've been in a bit of a lull, but that's besides the point. We're back, slowly starting to make some more content, and I've picked up this CRF125FB, and we're going to put around the property and talk about it a little bit. For me, it's just a bike turn around, flip and sell. But I have owned, some of the subscribers will remember, a KLX140. So that's kind of what I'm going to be comparing it to directly, and let's just jump straight into it. I don't really intend on riding this bike too much, because as it sits now, this is a 2020 model and it looks brand new, and that is because it only has, well, it has less than 2 tanks of gas run through it. So normally when someone tells you something like that when you buy something from them, it's kind of like, do you believe them or not believe them? In this case, I believe them, because this thing is absolutely spotless, other than like surface rust in a spot or two, which is going to happen regardless. Yeah, it's absolutely brand new. So I don't plan on bombing this thing around too much and running up the hours on it. But anyway, in my opinion, Honda has always had the best play bikes. Everything from the Z50, then the XR and CRF 50s, and the 110. I thought I heard an odd noise in the middle of the night last night. A couple nights ago, actually, not last night. It looked like somebody made an attempt to have a little fun tearing up somebody's field and then decided to get out of here. I don't know. Anyway, I digress. And you know, Honda's got the CRF 110, and a lot of the horizontal engine bikes are like the big popular pit bikes. However, I feel like Honda has dropped the ball with this 125F. You know, the XR100 is also a very popular pit and play bike. There's a couple of shortcomings on this bike compared to the 140L that I had, and that's what we're going to focus on. That's where I think Honda dropped the ball with this. So I didn't even realize it until I got the bike, rode it. I'd rode it around the driveway multiple times, and then I went and just ran it up the road and back after changing the oil, and I realized it's a 4-speed. That's ridiculous. Somebody dumped that. So anyway, to deal with that later. It's a 4-speed, not a 5-speed. So I feel like they missed the ball there. Third gear on this bike's kind of anemic, and it shouldn't be. And that's because there's a wider spread between second and third than there would be if it was a 5-speed transmission. The spread from third to fourth feels fine. The fourth is probably a little taller than it would be if it was a 5-speed naturally. I just feel like they dropped the ball there. For younger kids, you know, maybe it's fine. And maybe that's not a huge deal. But for the play bike category, fast kids and or adults just cruising around on these things, it would be nice to have a 5-speed. So I feel like Honda really did kind of drop the ball there. I haven't Google checked myself here, but I grew up owning a CRF80, XR80. It's before the CRF came out. Same thing. And then my wife at one point, probably 5 or 6 years ago, had a XR100. I feel like those were 5-speeds. I haven't Google checked myself, but I feel like they were 5-speeds. Maybe they were 4-speeds, and I'm just misremembering. I'm not sure. I'll Google it after I post this video. But I feel like they were 5-speeds. Either way, I just feel like Honda missed an opportunity there. The KLX is way better, in my opinion, having the 5-speed. So Moving on from that, the other shortcoming is the fuel injection. Now, the fuel injection in and of itself is fantastic that Honda has done this. I'm not saying that the fuel injection is technically a shortcoming, but it is a shortcoming in the sense of how they've tuned the bike. If you look at a map, like a dyno chart map, and the fuel mapping, you can see that at 6,000 RPM, they have decided, again, this is technically a kid's bike, so it's really not that big of a deal, but they decided to cut fuel by 30% at 6,000 RPM and on. So the bike really tapers off hard coming out of the mid and into the top end. So you can fix that, but that's $150. If it was a carbureted bike like the KLX140 and I wanted to tune it, I just ordered jets, which I did when I had my KLX140. I spent like $8.99 or something like that at the time and ordered one larger size main jet and one larger size pilot, and completely got rid of the cold collared nature of the bike, and it ran a little better. And performed just slightly better. But again, that's $8, not $149 plus a week to mail my ECU off to CJR or someone else, and then wait on it to get back with the flash on it. And then if you go tuning it yourself with a like a Dynajet V3 fuel pack tuner, you're looking at like $400. So it's good that they did fuel injection for kids and wives and people who don't normally ride bikes. They don't have to deal with a choke and a carburetor and possibly flooding it and all, this and that and the other. But the downside is they've tuned it from a performance standpoint really crappy, and to fix that just simply cost a lot more bucks than if it was carbureted. That's the two biggest problems with it. Aside from that, I do think it's a great little bike. If I would have purchased this over the KLX140, I would have been not nearly as happy with my purchase. But that's also assuming that at some point in the future I would have rode a KLX140. Without having ridden and owned a KLX140, if I owned this as an adult just to have as a play bike, I would have done the same mods. I would do the BBR front springs, BBR rear shock spring, and taller handlebars and or just handlebar risers, and I would call it a day. Wow, there's a huge hole there. I know on the KLX I did those exact same mods, and the only other mods I did were, like I said, the jets, jetted it, and then aside from that, I went up a tooth on the front sprocket because that bike was geared super low, and it had a 5-speed, so going up a tooth on the front sprocket was fine. If you went up a tooth on the front sprocket on this, I feel like you would not enjoy it as much, because third and fourth gear would become even more anemic than they are already. What else? I think that's about it. I mean, other than all those things, I mean, it's really just two big things: the transmission and the fuel injection. And the fuel injection is a positive while also being a negative. Just depends on whether or how you're looking at it. If you're buying this for your kid, it's great. If you're buying it as a pit bike for you, or an extra bike for your wife or some other adult to put around on, then it's kind of a negative. So anyway, other than that, this is the first time being on one of the perimeter frame styled Hondas with the fuel injection. I haven't ridden a 110, which my wife used to own one of those as well, and I mean, technically I owned it, I guess. I'm the one that bought it, and we were not married at the time, so technically it was mine, but it was hers. but I have not ridden one of those with fuel injections. So this is the first one of the Honda fuel injected trail bikes I've ridden, and it seems like a great little bike, and it is for sale. So if you're interested and live somewhere around North Alabama, or are willing to travel to North Alabama, hit me up. I'll give you a deal on it. But if I'm spending my cold hard cash, and it is for me to play around on, I think I would be happier with the 140L, or probably the 140G. And this bike's not offered in a 2118 or 2117 combo, so you don't have to worry about that being even an option. But with the Kawasaki it is, or at least it was. So I'm gonna call it at that, and those are my thoughts and opinions on it. Let me know what you think.